starting with the chapter, the parliamentary system, which is we are focusing on legislature and the executive. So after we have got our independence, we have prepared our constitution of India. So what is a constitution? So it is a comprehensive document that laid the foundational principles for the nation. So these are the set of rules and regulations which are framed for maintaining the law and order, and that is the foundational principles for the nation. How we have to progress as a country for the welfare of the people and altogether as a nation. So basically for this we have the parliament. So it all starts with a constitution providing us the right to vote. So when you have the right to vote, then you will elect your representatives. So these representatives are the MPs and the MLAs and all these things, and they will constitute the parliament. So we will send the elected representatives to the Loksabha, where they'll speak for us on behalf of the people and try to solve the problems the people are facing. So there have been 17 Lok Sabhas since the first one in 1952. We had a total of 17 Lok Sabhas, and the 18th Lok Sabha was constituted in the June of 2024. So this is the old parliament and this is the new building. So this old one is in a circular shape and the new parliament building is in a soft corner triangle shape. So what do the soft corner triangle represent? So it represents balance, inclusivity, and purpose. So this is the meaning of constructing this building as a soft corner triangle which represents balance, inclusivity, and purpose. So the next part is the composition of the parliament. So the parliament is composed of president and the two houses. So the two houses are the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. The Lok Sabha is also called the House of the People or the lower house, and the Rajya Sabha is the Council of States or the upper house. So this is represented as the House of People because here we have the directly elected representatives who are directly elected by the people, and here we have the indirectly elected MPs. So here we have directly elected representatives, and here these will elect the MPs of the Rajya Sabha. And the number of MPs, so it is important to remember that the number of MPs for a particular state will depend on its population. So the population of that state will say how many number of MPs will be there to represent that particular state in the Lok Sabha, and this carries for the Rajya Sabha as well. So we have two houses, that is Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So it is called bicameral system. So bi in the sense two and cameral in the sense chamber or house. So since we have two houses, it is called bicameral system, and so it is important to remember that the composition of the parliament is the president plus the two houses. So the functions of the Lok Sabha. So basically the Lok Sabha is headed or it's conducted, or the members will elect a speaker who will conduct the proceedings. So what are the functions? That is, they conduct and allow the members to speak, and they maintain the discipline and ensure that the rules are followed. So these are all the functions which are done in the Lok Sabha, and they are maintained by the speaker who is elected by the members of the Lok Sabha. And the Rajya Sabha is preceded by the Vice President of India, who acts as the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. So initially in the first, when we are forming the constitution, we had a thought whether to have both houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, or just the Lok Sabha with the elected representatives is enough. But because the new nation, the newly formed nation will have a lot of problems, so they thought that having a Rajya Sabha would even be more helpful in upholding the idea of federalism. So federalism is a form of government where the power is given to both the center, the state, and to the local governments. So federalism is followed in India. So they thought that having a proper representation to the states with the help of Rajya Sabha will also help solve the problems in a quicker manner. Speaking of another important thing, that is the Singol. So it is like a gold plated silver scepter. In the sense, it is a decorated rod which is carried by a king or a queen at the ceremonies as a symbol of the power. So initially, it was given. Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the first Prime Minister of India, and it was given to him on 14th August 1947, because that was where we had the transfer of power from the colonial era to a proper democracy. So this symbol was handed over to Jawaharlal Nehru, and now this particular thing is placed near the speaker's chair in the new Lok Sabha. So it is now placed near the speaker's chair in the new Lok Sabha. So it is served as a symbol of righteous and just rule. So on top of this, you can see this is the Singol, and on top of this, we have Nandi, which symbolizes justice. So, this particular thing will make us remember that the power must be guided by dharma and righteousness. So, it is dating back to the Chola period. So, its significance is has a very long history. So, this is all about the Singol. Moving on to the translation services. So, in the parliament, we have translation services because there'll be in India, it is a very diverse country and we have people speaking different languages. So, it is not that we have one language and one language to communicate. So, we have translation services available initially to up to 12 languages, which are as follows. You can see, and later on, recently, 6 more languages were added to these translation services, and furthermore are added or expected to be added in the future. So total we have 12 plus 6 languages available for now, and future it is seen that it is expected to be added in the future as well. So basically there are two functions to be followed, that is the executive responsibilities and the legislative responsibilities. Executive responsibilities in the sense it is ensuring that the laws are implemented and enforced, while the legislative responsibilities is making the laws, that is forming the laws, while the executive responsibility is to see that the laws which are made are implemented and enforced properly. So all these things are looked after by the union executive. So it is very important to remember that union executive, in the sense we have the president, the vice president, and the council of ministers who are headed by the prime minister. So all of these come under the union executive. It is important to remember this union executive, in the sense we have the president, the vice president, and the council of ministers who are headed by the prime minister himself. So these council of ministers will be chosen from the MPs of both the houses of the parliament. So these ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. So they are answerable, these council of ministers are answerable to the Lok Sabha. And these are elected from both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So this is the union executive. Now we will see the legislative and executive functions of the parliament in a great detail. So what are the legislative functions of the parliament? So the legislative functions of the parliament are the constitutional functions, the law making, executive accountability, and financial accountability. So we'll deal all these one by one. So first, speaking of the constitutional functions. So constitutional functions, in the sense it is the upholding the core values of the Indian constitution. So the parliament's main responsibility is to see that the core values of the constitution are not damaged or they are properly followed. So if that is not followed, then there is no point in having a parliament in itself. So constitutional functions are, that is, enabling the parliamentary democracy through the universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise in the sense we already seen in the previous chapter, that is the right to vote. So whoever is above the age of 18 plus and they are the citizens of India, then they will have the right to vote. And following the separation of powers between the legislative, executive and the judiciary. So legislative making the laws, executive is the one which is enforcing the laws, and judiciary is the one with the checks and balances to see that these both are properly managed. And ensuring federalism. Federalism in the sense the power is evenly placed in between the center, state and to the local governments. And also upholding the fundamental right and the directive principles of state policy by framing laws and policies. So they have to say that the people are getting their fundamental rights and the directive principles. So in the parliament we have certain directive principles which are told to be followed according to situations, and it is also the responsibility of the parliament to see that the upholding of the fundamental rights is done and also the directive principles of the state policy by framing the laws and the policies. So the second point is the lawmaking. So the second aspect is the lawmaking. So the legislative functions of the parliament, the second one is the lawmaking. So they have to make the laws. So first of all, when a law has to be made, a bill will be placed in the parliament. So a bill will be placed in the parliament by the government. And so what is a bill? So it is a draft of a proposed law. So whichever law they wanted to bring, it is a draft of that and that is called the bill. So when this bill is accepted, it is then an act. So a law is brought into force with an act. So basically a law is proposed and it is the bill, and if this bill is approved, then it will become an act. So one such example or the case study which is given in the NCERT is Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009, which is the RTE. That is, any child who is in between the age of 6 to 14 should not be denied of their education. So in NCERT we have been given a brief case study about this. So I'll be reading out because every line is very important in this whole aspect. Most people call me RTE. I came into existence in August 2009, though the idea began almost a century ago. My roots lie in the directive principles of the state policy of the Indian Constitution, though the constitution makers wanted me implemented within a decade after independence. This didn't happen, leaving countless children without access to education. In the early 1990s, someone argued in court that I was inherently a part of the fundamental rights in the Constitution, namely, right to life, as education is important to lead a meaningful life. Parliamentary action began some years later with the introduction of the 86 Constitutional Amendment Act 2002, which mandated as Article 21A of the Constitution that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children between the ages of 6 and 14 years. 6 years later, I was tabled as a bill in the Rajya Sabha. A committee studied me thoroughly and suggested modifications. The major debate concerned funding, new schools, infrastructure, and teachers for millions of children would be costly. By 2008, the members determined it was the time. After the 2009 elections, the new government pursued the matter, and in August 2009, I was passed in Loksabha and received the President's assent, becoming an act. So today, I have enabled the creation of legal pathways for children to attend school, facilitated new school construction, and ensured free books and uniforms for children. So this is all about the RTE, which is provided in your NCERT. So after a bill will have the assent of the President, it will become an act. So with this, you have completed the second point, that is the law making. So what are the main things which a bill will become an act? So the process of law making, that is, first it is introduced in the House of the Parliament, either House of the Parliament, and then there will be the reading of the bill, and then it is referred to the standing committee. So reading of the bill in the sense, it is the origins are in the British Parliament. So many MPs were illiterate, so a clerk would read out the contents of the bill for the MPs. So they were illiterate, so now it is not like that. The MPs will read the bill even before the speak or the discussions will take place, and then it is referred to the standing committee. Standing committee in the sense, it is a permanent committee of the consisting of MPs that is scrutinizes the government activities, making recommendations and asks the questions on actions taken by the government. And then it is taken up for consideration and passing, and then clause by clause there will be the amendments which is voted, and clause by clause they will be having proper arguments about it. That is, there are parts of the bill that explain the specific details of the bill. So RTE defines the age group which applies to 6 to 14 years. Like that, every bill will have certain clauses. So these clauses will be brought up into arguments, and then they will be having a voting on this particular bill. And then the process will be repeated in the other house. So first in the Loksabha and then in the Rajya Sabha. And then if it's passed in both the houses, it will go for the presidential assent. And then a gazette notification will be given. So a gazette notification in the sense, it is an official government publication that announces legal documents and official information. So this is the only process which a bill will go through to become an act. So bill in the sense, it is a draft of a proposed law. So in this way law making is done. It is not that one person will think and a law will be done. No, it has certain set of rules to follow, and it has people representation in it, because the people's elected representatives will only vote for that thing. So it is like we people are voting for making a particular law which is applied on us. So with this, we have completed the law making. Next, moving on to the executive accountability. So executive accountability in the sense, the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are part of the Union Executive. You already seen the President, the Vice President and the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. So they have the responsibility, that is the primary responsibility for implementing and enforcing the laws and the day-to-day functioning of the government, and they are answerable to the Lok Sabha in the question hour. So not just in the question hour, they are answerable to the people, to the Lok Sabha. So in the starting of the day, starting of the parliament, the first 1 hour will be having a question hour where the ministers are responsible to answer the questions which are asked by the people. That is the elected representatives. We have the question hour especially to answer these particular questions. So this will say that they are accountable to the people. So the next one, the fourth one, that is the financial accountability. So the Parliament approves and monitors the government expenditure through the annual budget, and this will be done in a timely and accurate manner. So with this way, they'll have the financial accountability as well. So now next we'll speak about the executive functions of the Parliament.